Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. All right, what's going on, guys? This is Rob, and today we return to our What If series, and we're going to ask the question, what would happen if the Phoenix Force showed up in the DC universe? Now, as most of you probably know, the Phoenix Saga and the Dark Phoenix sagas are considered by most to not only be one of the greatest X-Men stories of all time, but one of the greatest superhero stories of all time. And if you disagree with that statement, then you're wrong. So if you don't know what happens in the Phoenix and Dark Phoenix sagas, a cosmic entity known as the Phoenix, which serves as the embodiment of all life that has ever, currently does, and will ever exist throughout the entire omniverse, to be honest, shows up and chooses Jean Grey as its host. Now, once Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix, she becomes vastly more powerful than she had ever been before. And while she is able to harness that power for a while, she's eventually corrupted and overtaken by the Phoenix Force and becomes the Dark Phoenix, and literally starts traveling around the galaxy, consuming energy and annihilating entire solar systems. Really, it was only one entire solar system, but it was like billions of people, so I guess that kind of sucks. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's basically the super abbreviated version. And I only tell it to give some context to the story that we're going to tell today, which is basically a retooling of the Dark Phoenix saga set in the DC universe. So, cue dramatic music. So the first thing we have to do is figure out who would be the host of the Phoenix Force if it showed up in the DC universe. And so if we look at why Jean Grey was chosen as the host for the Phoenix, up until Chris Claremont took over writing duties on the X-Men, Jean Grey was essentially treated as somewhat of an afterthought on the team. But Claremont sought to make the character a more important piece of the overall mythos of not only the X-Men, but Marvel Comics as a whole. And so Claremont said that it was his and Dave Cockrum's desire to turn Jean into the first cosmic female superhero. And so Jean taking on the Phoenix Force was initially an attempt to revitalize a character that was really inconsequential at the time and turn her into a major force within DC Comics. And so with that in mind, if the Phoenix Force were to show up in the DC universe, its host should be a character that is sort of treading that water without any real direction as to where their story arc is actually going. And so as odd as it may sound, I think this reasoning leads us to choose Dick Grayson as the logical choice for the Phoenix Force. And the reason I say that is that although Dick Grayson has much more of a history than Jean did when she became the Dark Phoenix, right now, his character really seems to lack a clear direction, especially since he was shot by the KG Beast, lost his memories, and then changed his name to Rick Grayson, a change that Nightwing fans absolutely hated. And so this would be a way to bring Dick back to the forefront of the DC universe and would also allow us to bring in both the Bat family and the Teen Titans into the story, as Dick Grayson has significant history with both groups. So our story would start with the Phoenix Force searching the galaxy for a host, with an explanation of what the Phoenix is as well as its purpose: to judge the universe and destroy the parts of it that are unworthy and recreate those portions in its own image. And so the Phoenix sets its sights upon the DC Prime Earth, and in particular the man formerly known as Robin and Nightwing. Now the Phoenix would sense Dick Grayson's heroism, but her psychic probe would reveal a mind fractured and in turmoil, struggling to remember his past as well as forge a path into the future under his new identity. Now, believing that it can bring clarity to Dick Grayson's mind, it chooses him as a host and makes its way to Earth. Now, when the Phoenix makes contact with Dick's mind, it sends him into a state of shock, and ultimately he enters a comatose state. As he recovers in the Batcave under the watchful eye of his mentor Bruce Wayne, Bruce realizes by reading his vital signs that something far beyond the ordinary has happened to Dick, and his biology has been fundamentally changed. And so over the next few days, Batman devotes himself to trying to figure out what's going on with his former sidekick, but Dick suddenly awakes from his slumber. Now he insists that he feels fine, physically better than he ever has, and Batman insists that he stay and recuperate, but Dick is determined to resume life as normal, and furthermore wants to once again take up the mantle of Nightwing and begin fighting crime. And so Batman warns against this, but Dick ignores him, leaves the Batcave, and things seem to go back to normal for the time being. Now all this changes when the Earth is invaded by Larfleeze, the Orange Lantern, and as the only Orange Lantern in existence, Larfleeze is able to harness all the power of the Orange Power Battery, which makes him extremely powerful. Now, driven by his insatiable greed, Larfleeze has come to Earth to claim it for his own, and the Justice League is battling him with everyone they have, but are unable to gain the upper hand in that battle. And so a call is put out for reinforcements, a call which is answered by most of the superheroes on Earth, including Nightwing. Now, under normal circumstances, Nightwing Nightwing would be fairly useless against such a powerful opponent. But as the heroes battle, Nightwing unleashes a powerful energy blast that instantly vaporizes Larfleeze, much to the shock of literally everyone who sees it happen. Now, following the battle, Nightwing meets with the Justice League to talk about what happened, and he explains to them that since he woke up from his coma, he's been able to do things that he couldn't have imagined before. This causes a huge amount of concern for basically everyone involved in the conversation, as none of them have seemingly any idea of what caused this monumental increase in Nightwing's power level. Now, as time goes on, Nightwing begins to learn to control his new abilities, and in the process becomes the most powerful hero in the DC universe. Now, villains that would have previously been threats to the continued existence of Earth seem to be no challenge for Nightwing, or the Phoenix as he now calls himself. However, as Phoenix becomes more powerful, he also becomes less like Dick Grayson that the heroes of the DC universe have known for so many years. And so he becomes ruthless in dealing with supervillains, often killing them rather than incapacitating them. And instead of feeling comforted that the Earth has a seemingly omnipotent new protector, the superhero community begins to fear what might happen if the Phoenix ever decided to turn on them, knowing that he would likely be completely unstoppable. And so all of this comes to a head during an incident in Gotham City, where hundreds die at the hands of the Joker, who's released copious amounts of his toxin into the city streets. Now, Phoenix steps in, vaporizes the toxin to remove it from the atmosphere, and in a move that surprises nobody at this point, he kills the Joker. Now, this leads to an altercation between Batman and his former protege, where Dick becomes furious at Batman for not killing the Joker sooner. He becomes incensed at the idea that Batman could have taken out the Joker and so many other villains and saved tons of lives by doing so, but instead allows them to keep escaping from custody and going out and killing even more people. Now, Batman predictably points out that he would be no better than the villains if they ever resorted to killing, but Dick isn't buying it. He continues to get increasingly angry and delivers an energy blast to Batman that knocks him unconscious, but stops short of killing him before leaving. Now, Phoenix is not seen again for months, and in this absence, crime ramps up as criminals believe the threat is completely gone. Now, as crime rates soar across the globe, Phoenix comes out of self-imposed isolation and begins raining down fire and brimstone on Metropolis. Now, Superman flies to meet him in the skies over the city and demands to know what he's doing, saying, "This isn't like you, Dick. I've known you for years. I know you care too much about the people to do something like this." I feel like that's how Superman would talk, but Phoenix would in turn answer, "Dick Grayson is gone. The Phoenix is all that remains in this body, and soon will be all that remains on this planet. This planet, these people are too far gone, Superman. Just look at them. I left to give them a choice, to show me that they were worthy of existing. And look at all of them, committing more heinous acts than ever before. And you, Batman, the Justice League, all of you supposed heroes don't have the courage to do what needs to be done to stop them. And so if you will not, then I will. I will burn all of this down, and I will remake it all anew." Now, obviously, Superman's not going to stand aside and let this happen. So he puts out a call to the rest of the Justice League and engages the Phoenix in battle, knowing that he cannot win. And deep down, knowing the rest of the Justice League will almost assuredly perish as well. Now, when the rest of the Justice League shows up, things go pretty much exactly as you would expect, meaning that they are all getting completely obliterated by the now Dark Phoenix. On the ground, Batman sends out a message that the time has come to execute their plan. And on the other end of the message, we see Raven, one of Dick's former teammates on the Teen Titans, and we learn here that, of course, Batman has developed a plan, because what would a major event be without Batman devising a plan to save the day? But we end up learning that while Dick was in a coma, Batman took a sample of his blood and has been learning what he can about the Phoenix Force. Now, knowing that there's no way to pose an external threat to the immense power of the Phoenix, he decides that the only way to defeat it will be from within. But to do that, he needs a telepath capable of reaching Dick's mind through the interference of the Phoenix, and so he ended up reaching out to Raven. Now, when Raven and the rest of the Teen Titans arrive, they find a pretty grim scene, right? Like Superman, Shazam, Wonder Woman, members of the Green Lantern Corps have all taken to the sky and been repelled by the Dark Phoenix, but their efforts are all proving to be futile. Now, they also find that members of the Bat family have also arrived, including Barbara Gordon, Tim Drake, and Damian Wayne. Now, as Dark Phoenix continues the battle, Raven makes telepathic contact with him and probes his mind, searching for any sign of her friend Dick Grayson inside. And so the Phoenix Force tries its best to repel Raven from Dick's mind, but her resolve is too strong, and she finally makes contact with Dick Grayson. Now, in this moment, Dick Grayson would chime in and say, "I can't fight it, Raven. It's too strong, and my mind hasn't been whole for a long time. That's why it was able to take over. I was simply too weak to fight." And a different voice besides Raven would respond and say, "You're not weak, Dick. Dick, you never have been. And this voice would of course belong to Barbara, who's been telepathically linked to Dick Grayson by Raven. Now, one by one, Dick's former teammates would follow Barbara and voice their encouragement and their belief in him. And hearing the voices of those that he's closest to, Barbara, Starfire, Tim Drake, Damian, and Bruce, Dick is able to muster all that he can and joins their collective attempt to force the Phoenix out. Now, as Dick begins to make progress in reclaiming his body, Superman and other heroes stop fighting him, not wanting to injure him further. And so in an epic struggle, the collective power of all the psyches of Dick and his allies forces the Phoenix entity from his mind, and Raven banishes it from the main DC reality to an alternate dimension. The battle, however, has left Dick physically broken and mentally exhausted. And so in the coming weeks, as Dick's body heals, he works with Raven to restore his mind as well, and it appears that his mind is made whole once again, fully embracing the identities of Dick Grayson and Nightwing once more. And so this story would accomplish a couple of things. First, it restores Nightwing's character to the fan favorite version that has been missing for too long in DC Comics, and basically removes all the Rick Grayson stuff, which nobody liked anyway, right? Nobody would care if that was gone. Secondly, it introduces a new threat to the DC universe in the form of the Phoenix Force that would definitely break through the dimensional barrier, shutting it off from the DC universe, and threaten all of existence once more when it bonds itself to Superboy Prime. We're gonna make that story. Superboy Prime becomes the Dark Phoenix. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.